everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering another one of the latest DCEU movies, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Well, that's a mouthful.
After splitting with the Joker, Harley Quinn joins superheroes Black Canary, Huntress and Renee Montoya to save a young girl from the crime lord Black Mask.
So they don't really call Black Mask that much in here. So before we get started, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
Yes, and the young girl is Cassandra Cain.
Yes.
Girl, Cassandra Cain. So I have to say, first of all, another thanks to Phoenix, who recommended this movie and practically said, please watch it and do a podcast, and so we have.
Right.
And we're actually happy he did, because we really didn't expect to like this movie. To be, full disclosure, we didn't expect to like it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we actually ended up liking this movie.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Phoenix. Great recommendation as always.
Yes. And for me, part of it did feel like Deadpool, because it had a lot of similar plot points going on in it, and the style of the movie, like it being a R-rated action comedy superhero / supervillain movie. You had the Harley saving Cassandra, like a reference to Deadpool trying to save Fire Fist. There were a lot of parallels between it, so I think they were going for a Deadpool route by having the one comedy violent anti-hero in the Marvel movies, just like DC's gonna have the same thing with this, because I think they're trying to get them a Suicide Squad after Deadpool did so well, and it didn't work for Suicide Squad, so they tried it with a character that was more in tune to being in a comedy situation.
Which we have seen, but we just never done a podcast on. So let's give a shout out to some of the actors in here, of course, Margot Robbie, Rosie Perez, Journey Smollett, Ewan McGregor, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and the surprise breakout star, Ella J. Bosco. Yes, that name is familiar because she is the niece of one Dante Bosco.
Yes!
Zuko.
Honor!
And you had a couple more.
Yeah, Ali, was it Chris Messina, Ali Wong, David Uri, is that correct? Uri, Sarah Montez, Isabel Pagzet, and Daniel Bernhardt.
So they had a great cast, and they had people that were really capable of portraying these characters convincingly. Ewan McGregor's Black Mask was very different from the comic version.
Yes. I haven't really read the comics that featured him, but the one part I remember him the most would be from the animated movie Batman Under the Red Hood. And for that one, he literally had him in a black mask, like he couldn't get it off, like that was just his head from now on. And perhaps they thought, that probably didn't look good for live action, it may have been controversial, so they decided to just have him be without a mask, and he wears the mask one time, and it sort of looks like a painted over Iron Man helmet, and it's like easily taken off, so perhaps that was simpler to do in live action.
That's true, and you're right, it could have been a controversy, it could have been seen as something else for those who haven't seen those movies or read the comics. So it probably was a good move. It was a strange role to see him do, but he did it convincingly.
Plus, his character has been altered severely for the movie. I guess they wanted to do a different way of making him, because we have seen on Twitter they announced that his orientation would be changed for the film, so I think along with that change they changed his personality and his aesthetic to where he's more of a sadistic guy that really gets a kick out of torturing people in here, instead of just being sort of like a kingpin.
Now for the character Renee Montoya, in the comics as well as in the animated series, there's a focus not only on her being a police officer, but also on her sexuality. Interestingly, for this movie, the focus was merely on her case and what she was trying to do. And it stayed there. So that was a real interesting take. You didn't get any backstory on her or anything. You pretty much just got her trying to solve this, and how the guy who's in charge has screwed her out of her promotion. and then he stole from her again during this movie.
Right.
So that was an interesting take to see, because we've seen her in other series, animated, and it's always being much more in depth. So maybe they're saving that for the standalone movie.
Yeah. The most you've seen is where she has to work with her ex-girlfriend, and that's it. They don't really touch on it more than that fact. So yeah, that was different.
Now, Helena Bertinelli, who's also known as the Huntress, this was also an interesting take. We've seen her in other animated series as well.
Right, Justice League, yeah.
And in here, they really just gave you a whole convoluted backstory, which is what it was.
Which they do make a joke out of in the film itself.
Yes.
They said, this is a lot to go through for revenge, isn't it?
And so this was a different take. And here, she has the more, a less seductive side, because when you see her in the animated series, she's more seductive. Also on Arrow,
yes,
she was very seductive, and she had a relationship with Oliver. But in here, they left that whole side out and just made it about her getting revenge. And then when she was done with the revenge, she's like, okay, I'm out of here, I'm done.
Like, wow, so literally,
I want it.
Yeah, usually they always have this thing where once they finally finish a lifelong goal, it's been going on for years, they don't know what to do with themselves. It looked like she was just going to go and get a movie or something after she finished her obsession after 15 years or something.
Yes. Okay, then we had Dinah Lance on Black Canary, and she had a couple of jobs going on here. She was a singer, and then she became a driver and bodyguard, and this was a different version of her for us to see as well, versus the animated series as well as the CW Arrowverse version of her.
Yes.
This was totally different.
Yes, not just from her appearance, but also her occupation. Now for
just altogether, she was like an entirely different character all around.
Yeah, pretty much. And she did work off well with Harley Quinn, because I think she was supposed to be one of the straight men of the film. I think the whole thing was that the Birds of Prey were the straight men, and then Harley was the crazy one. But the thing was, they all had their own degree of craziness to them.
And we did get to see her once use her canary scream, and we were like, okay, finally she did use it. She could kick butt in here as usual, and we got to see the scream. So now we'll get to Harley Quinn, the star of the movie, Margot Robbie, and whoever thought that we would see her break up with the Joker? Never, never, never.
Yeah.
But in here, they did do it, and they made it ugly, like happens in real life. It was an ugly breakup, where it's one-sided, and he got the better end, and she got the crap end. And she was, really depressed, really heartbroken, trying to figure out, what to do and make sense of it all.
Right. And maybe they're going to set up, if she's in another movie, by herself or with a team up, perhaps they're going to set up like they did for the animated series, where she'll end up with Poison Ivy, because clearly this is now the new ship for her for DC Comics. She's no longer with the Joker.
Well, we've seen it in Batman the Animated Series, so it's not foreign that, she's with Poison Ivy. It's not foreign at all. But it was interesting to see, again, this take on Harley. She looks nothing like the animated version. She acts differently. They made reference to the backstory, but it was really just a little small part, and they made her so different. So it was getting to know, for me, it was like getting to know a new character.
Yeah.
This is not the Harley Quinn that all of us are used to.
You're right.
This is a new Harley Quinn.
You're right, because if you think about the beginning of the movie, has a little animated segment where she tells her story, who she is. And I think they're saying for this new version of Harley Quinn, she had a drastic change after the breakup, because you see her cut her hair, get the tattoos, get all the face paint and stuff after the breakup, and she regrets cutting the hair. Like as soon as she does, she's like, why did I do that?
Right.
So I think is what they're saying, she went through a whole makeover after her breakup, so she no longer looked like the one you knew from the animated series.
Right. They took away, where a lot of people were vocal about it, they took away the sexiness of the character. And it was on purpose. I mean, it's obvious when you see the movie, they didn't want you focusing on that part of what you knew about the previous character. They wanted you to focus on the strengths. They wanted you to focus on the journey she was having. They wanted you to focus on how she was working with these other female characters to get out of this situation. And because they took that part away, it did work. Because I think a lot of people would have been focused on, you know, TNA. Just being honest, they would have been focused on that. Like in Suicide Squad, she did not look like this in Suicide Squad. She still had, they still had her where she was exuding some sexiness. But in this one, they made sure
there's nothing at all.
There's not going to be a chance of you getting sidetracked by her looks. We want you to focus on the story. And by doing it the way they did it, you absolutely had to.
Right.
So all of these women together had to end up working together to save Cassandra Cain, whom we're introduced into in another way as well.
Right. Now, for the, like I said, it's completely different from the comics. It's almost in a similar fashion of Billy Batson, where she's in foster care instead. And each place she goes to is like worse than the last, so she tries to pretty much strike out on her own. She's a pickpocket, and they even tell her, like, if you keep this up, you're gonna pickpocket the wrong person. And eventually, like, the second they say that, she picks up the wrong person, right? And she has a diamond, and now there's a manhunt for her.
Right.
So, and then she ends up kind of forming a friendship with Harley after Harley breaks her out of, I guess, detainment. Yeah, detainment. When they're at the police station. And like I said, there's a lot of parallels between this and Deadpool. When you get to this part of the movie with Cassandra and Harley, it really reflects Deadpool and Fire Fist. The only difference is that Harley and Cassandra become friends, while Deadpool and Fire Fist unintentionally become enemies. So I think they wanted to show, like, these two could have a stronger bond than that, so it wouldn't look like it was just copy and paste, but you kind of see a lot of it in here.
And there's another thing that was different during that first 20 minutes of the film. It was just graphic violence the whole time. After that, again, you got more to the story. Unlike Deadpool, it's the same throughout in terms of the violence and him being the anti-hero. It stopped for this movie for a long time, and you were seeing shooting, but it was being, you know, it was Black Mask directing people to be killed or something of that nature, but it wasn't Harley nor the women that are in this movie. Right. And then you see them work to get away, and again, it didn't return to that same violence as it was in the beginning. It was different because they were working together to get out. They really weren't trying to just murder people. You see, there was a mission again to save Cassandra Cain and to get out alive, which they did. And then so in the end, you understand there's going to be a standalone Birds of Prey movie. It'll be starring Renee Montoya, Huntress, and Black Canary, which looks like it's going to be really good. And as you said, we get to see what's going to happen for Harley Quinn. And I think you're right, she will end up in a movie with Poison Ivy. So this will be interesting to see these two branch off. And it was understood at the end of this movie, okay, we've helped each other. We're still the criminals over here, and you're still the heroes over here.
Right. There was no other team up happening.
Could be, but they were not going to stay together and work together, and Birds of Prey was not going to be villains and heroes together. They made that clear.
Right.
So, if you have seen this movie and you have a strong opinion one way or the other, or if like us, you didn't expect to like it, but you ended up really liking the movie, let us know what you think in the comments below, as well as what you think of the performances of the lead actresses. Right.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and Roll the Paws videos.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for watching. I'm Rats Entertainment.
I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace. And we forgot to mention, we put her in here because she's now an anti-hero instead of being a villain.
Yes.
Yes. So, peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man. Who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams. She was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket.